the concomitant question that courses through everything, whether we're going to be in the United States a nation of the wealthy, for the wealthy, by the wealthy and the privileged and the connected, at the great expense of most of our people, and particularly after the near depression, economic depression that we've come through. Are we going to allow the benefits of recovery to accrue not just to corporations and the top earners in this country, but to working people and their families? And that too is the most basic question of holding account to those in power. Because in the United States, and increasingly in some of the Western democracies, we're poised at the edge of plutocracy to an extent in the United States that we have never been, certainly since the Gilded Age of the 20th century. My generation and the succeeding ones in the second half of the 20th century accomplished remarkable things. We created the greatest meritocracy in the history of the world. Opportunity, economic and social, for all our people to an extent never dreamed of. Civil rights, the undoing of so much of our history of slavery and oppression of African Americans, and women's rights and gay rights. And think again to how much those advances in our culture, in our person-to-person experience, came about partly because we understood what was news. When we covered civil rights, we understood the importance of that story. We understood using the tools that you all are here to hone, to talk about. We understood that these were the ways when we determined what was news and used these basic tools that you have learned, that and let the chips fall where they might, that this is what our job was. But now, in the United States particularly, our news agenda has failed. It's failed young people particularly, as I say, because my generation, our generation, has continued to take out of the system and missed, to some extent, this great story, how we have robbed the system. For them, young people with student debt, tens of thousands of dollars, without the opportunities that we had, people my age, whether they were a dropout like me or they went to college. The other day I was asked in an interview, well, why hasn't the press been able to topple the government like in Watergate? To which I said, it's not the job of the press to topple governments. It's the job of the press to report on the real existing conditions of a culture, a society, a government, a sports event, not to bring about the desired result of the reporter or newspaper editor or owner. It's the job of the people, the job of the legislature that they elect to topple the government if that's what is to happen, the job of the larger institutions and system and people of the country. Well, the system worked in Watergate. And we saw democratic principles succeed in a way that reaffirmed our common belief in the ideas of government that serves its citizens, of the rule of law. Well, how did that come about? What was the role of the press in that? And tonight, I'm told you're going to watch the film of All the President's Men. And I think what you're going to see is it's not about heroism. I hope that's what you're going to see. It's about what you do. It's about the reasons you're all here, about the basics of journalism and real reporting. What do you see in that movie? What do you get when you read All the President's Men? You see some reporters and an institution, but that is about persistence, about common sense. Starting, all right, they're saying it's a third-rate burglary. Let's go see if it really is a third-rate burglary. Let's not accept the notion of this smooth, well-oiled White House, perfectly engineered entity with its zero defect systems that the press, the National Press Corps, had partly created in Nixon's first years in office. Let's use common sense and find out what's there. We were metropolitan reporters. We weren't national reporters with high-placed sources in the government. And one of the things we did, and you'll see it in this film, is that we had great respect for the people that we were covering and talking to. They weren't Democrats. They were people who worked for Richard Nixon. But we had some faith in that people want to tell the truth if you give them the chance, if you treat them with respect. Sure, some of them are not going to, and a lot of them are going to slam a door in your face. But, you know, I'm often asked, if you had advice to give a young reporter, somebody starting out in the business, what would it be? I would say it's be a good listener. I think it's maybe the biggest failing that I see, aside from the news agenda itself, which is back to sensationalism, manufactured controversy, and the like. But be a good listener. We don't listen enough anymore. Again, we're so intent on coming in with a microphone or a notebook or a camera, asking a couple questions, thinking we know what the story is, and running out with the answer that we think we want that's going to get people excited. I don't think that's reporting. And I think it's increasingly what we do. And when you watch the movie of All the President's Men, you see, whoa, wait a minute, this might be something different that we do. And maybe somebody scratch their head and say, geez, that's really pretty basic. You know, all our sources worked in the Nixon administration or for his re-election committee, and there was nothing exotic about what we did. Back to common sense. We worked at night, mostly, in terms of seeing people. We interviewed people away from their jobs, in their homes, away from where they'd be subjected to pressure and intimidation. And one of the things that is terrific about the movie, I think, of All the President's Men, is that you see how the truth is uncovered in darkness, and then in the light of day, it's given expression when the paper comes out. But often you have to maybe take another look at the daily cycle of when and where is the best way to go about getting information.